granddaughter Ava is going to be a big first grader tomorrow. Mini ha-ha. Grandma Tuesdays, I babysit on Tuesdays. So thanks for coming. Today we're going to talk about, winning in multiple offers. So any of you wrote an offer this year that you didn't get?
Yep.
Lost? Yep, me too. So I think if you're writing offers, you probably have been in that situation, and all of a sudden you barely get out of the house, and then you get that message that says, highest and best by 5 o'clock tonight. And two ways that you can kind of look at that. You can be excited because you're going to write the offer and you're going to know sooner than later whether or not your buyer gets the offer. Or I think that sometimes it can send you into a panic because you know how much your buyers want the property, and you want to make sure that you can do everything to get it for them. So that's a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. For me, I try to really come from, you got to have heart in this business, so you really love your clients, right? Everybody loves their clients, wants to make sure that they get to the right place to, gets that right property that they really, really want. And then, we also want to make sure that we're having, that we're trying to understand too what the sellers are looking for on the other side, because we know that going through this buyers and sellers process can be extremely stressful for both sides, right? And we kind of ride the roller coaster in between. You'll see me there hanging out with my hair blowing back a lot. So that's what we're going to talk about. I'm just going to, Trey asked me just to talk a little bit about what my process is. We're going to go back here. Sorry. The internet, we love the internet. Okay. All right, so preparing buyers. So one of the things that I do, and I'd love to hear from you guys too about what you do, so I'd like to be able to learn, what your process is. See if there's some steps that I'm missing maybe. As soon as we see a house that the buyers are interested in, automatically what I do is I send the disclosures prior to the showing. So if you have been with a buyer for a little bit and you really get what they're looking for and you've really done a good job on your buyer's consult, then you sort of know, right, when you see something come up on the MLS, like, ooh, that could be a really strong possibility for that buyer, right? So I send those disclosures out prior to even taking them out to the property. I send them the Truth in Housing, all the reports that are out there. If I have time, I like to send those like right away. And in the beginning, what I do know is that most of our buyers don't know how to read that Truth in Housing, right? So you have to explain it to them. They don't know what the disclosures are, so you have to explain those too, what to look for, those kind of things. So I think that it gives them a lot of knowledge and power before they go out to that showing, that they know everything about that house. You guys agree or disagree? Yeah? I do a market of similar homes for pricing. I think that there have been some homes that I've had the opportunity to win on for my clients this year. The price was here, my offer was here, and my buyers got the offer. Simply because there's a lot of people that are overpricing in this market as well. You guys see any of that? Yep. So just because it's listed at $550,000 doesn't mean that that's what it's valued at, right? So we know that the buyers set the market. I'm simply amazed. I'm kind of an old person in this industry, so seeing those small little houses over in St. Louis Park, that I've sold for years for $189, $199, a lot of head shaking, we get it. Now all of a sudden they're going for like $260, $270, $275. That's a hard offer for me to write. But anyway, the buyer set the market, so there's not a lot we can do about it. But the one thing that we can do is make sure that we're doing that market, and so we know exactly what the value should be so that we can discuss that with the buyer. I called the lender to have them run the numbers for the buyer because I think black and white, they need to see this is what it is, your taxes, your insurance, all of it put together, and this is what your payment's going to be. And a couple of different scenarios. So if we're going to go in at list price, which oftentimes this year we weren't, that wasn't going to get you the house, right? So we needed to sort of stretch that so that they knew what those stretch numbers looked like. So they had a minute to kind of digest that. Have you guys seen a lot of houses that came back on the market this year? Like they got the offer, boom, it was gone, and then like a day later it came back on, right? And when I see that, I think that, you know, oftentimes what we're hearing is that the buyers got cold feet. Well, I think that the buyers sometimes they just get cold feet, but I think more times than not it's because we really didn't prepare them to understand either the process or the numbers, right? So when they see that payment just went up from, you know, 16 to 19 or whatever it is, sometimes, you know, they have to have a minute to sort of digest that and make sure that that's going to fit into their budget long term. The buyer should be familiar with all the documents related to the PA. So one of the things that I do when I'm working with buyers is every time we go out to look at something, I take a couple sheets of paper with me. So after the buyer's consult, we've gone through all of that, right? We've talked about how we're going to work together, how the process works. I don't try to overwhelm them with a ton of paperwork, but what I do is promise that by the time they're ready to write an offer, they're going to know every single document that they're signing. You guys agree that that's our responsibility? I do. I don't ever like to sign anything, you know, that I don't understand, except for insurance documents, because that would like take too long. I don't really understand insurance at all, so I just sign them. But anyway, yeah, so every time I go out to a showing, maybe I'll take a personal property sheet and I'll go through and say, this is what you're going to sign. So we're in the house. So these are the things that maybe you'd want in this house, right? So this is the document that you're going to sign when we get ready to do the purchase agreement. So hopefully I'm getting my buyers to a place where they feel really confident and really ready to write that purchase agreement and then stick to what they're writing because they understand it. I think that buyers get really overwhelmed when all of a sudden you're writing an offer, they've never seen these documents before, and then you're asking them to just sign, and then all of a sudden in the back end they're like, whoa, wait a minute, what just happened here? You guys ever get that feeling from buyers? I have. Yeah, back in the day before, you know, I really started getting better at preparing my buyers to win. I don't know why we keep going back, but we do. Okay. All right, discussing the personal property. Closing dates, warranties, and inspections, and then getting ready to, you know, hopefully preparing in every step of the way, getting them ready to write. So we've already talked about the personal property, the closing dates, do theirs match up with the sellers, and then also the warranties and the, I think that, you know, right beforehand, you know, we're writing those number of days, right? So in this market, that's been really super important to the listing agent. So when you get a purchase agreement and you see that somebody wants 12 days for the inspection versus somebody else who wants to do it in 6 days, do you think that's a consideration for the listing agent and the seller? It really is. So you want to make sure that their time frame, that they're going to be able to get something done if we know that that's a motivating factor for the seller, right? Do you think we're ready to write the offer now? Probably not. Okay, I don't know how to make this bigger.
Do you see the present button next to the share? Upper right-hand corner, down.
next to the yellow button.
Down just a little, yep, right.
Present.
Yeah.
You see it even with no glasses. Yay. Okay, so the listing agent kind of wonked out there. Who are they and what brokerage do they work for? So then I really start to look at the listing agent. Do you guys pay attention to that at all? Do you look and find out like what their sales were, what brokerage firm they work with? I would even look at their email address. So if you're working with somebody who has an email address that's AOL, what do? Yes. Right? You know what I'm saying, right? So I do. I look at who they work for, and I look up their numbers. I find out what their sales were if I have time. And why do you want to know? Why would that be a good thing to know?
You know who you're working with and how much experience they have or don't have.
Yes. Yes. So, yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's exactly why. Yep. Yep.
Nothing?
What's that?
Nothing.
Most of us are new in here, so.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay, the sellers. So when you're writing an offer, how many of you know who the seller is? Or what kind of work do you do to find out who the seller is?
Tax record.
Tax record, what does the tax record tell you?
Well, it tells you what they paid for it,
Yeah,
you know, how long they've owned it,
yep,
what their current, of course, taxes are,
yep,
homesteaded, not homesteaded.
yep. So right there, that's a ton of information, right? If you're just looking up the tax record, because then you know if this is a seller who's never sold their house, they've lived there 40 years, what does that tell you as a buyer's agent?
Most likely paid off.
Maybe, most likely paid off. Anybody
Personal
else?
Attachment,
What's that?
attachment.
Yeah, so then we're gonna go back to the hard stuff. So then I start thinking about that seller, and I'm thinking, wow, they've lived in this property for 40 years, which I've never done in my life, but I can imagine, and I work with sellers who have. Like, that's your home, that's where you raised your kids, that's where you lived your life, a big part of your life. So I'm thinking about that personal attachment, which is starting to get me ready then to talk to the buyer about how we're gonna write this offer, right? Also, the homestead, the non-homestead is a really good point, because if they are non-homesteaded and, the house was vacant, how soon do you think they want to sell that thing? Probably pretty soon, right? So all those little clues can help you in writing the offer. What do they have in common with your buyers? I'm like a Columbo, and I'm not ashamed of that. I will shamelessly go on Facebook and find those sellers, the agent, all of them. They're out there, right? So if they have if you find the sellers out on Facebook and they have dogs, they're on their boats, they, have all these hobbies and all of that, you're trying to find some kind of commonality, at least I am, between them and my buyers. Does that make sense? Why am I doing that? Anybody?
Write a letter that appeals to them.
Bingo. Coming up, yes. What their motivation is to move. Will listing agents tell you that sometimes? Yep, and then the MLS comes up sometimes too. So when you're on that listing appointment, you're talking to your client and you say, is it okay if I share with everyone that this is open due to a relocation? They say yes or no. So when agents call you and say, why is the seller moving or why are they selling, you can share that with them. So, and a lot of agents will just, they'll tell you that, and some agents won't. Then how do you find out? Obviously ask. And then the homestead thing too is really a good way to do that as well. Okay, so the feedback. So we've looked at the house, we've sent the disclosures, all the reports, you've gone through all those with your buyers, they understand, the lender's done all the work, they understand the numbers, and then all of a sudden you get that email that says, do the feedback on the property. So what kind of things do you look at before you write the feedback? And are you writing it from your perspective, or are you writing it from the buyer's perspective?
I want to know if the seller's going to read it. Doesn't it usually tell you that the seller's gonna read this?
I just always assume that the seller's gonna read it, because if I have a listing, then all my feedback goes directly to the sellers. Because I don't wanna have to forward it over every time, so I'm putting it in there, so that they automatically get it. So here's what I do. I go back to the listing description. And in the listing description, when you sit down with a client and you're getting ready to list their house, they're telling you all these things about their house, right? And you're writing it down. So those are some of the things that they're most proud of about their house, that that they hold their house, you know, something in very high regard. Their yard is like a park. You know, we take all those words, right? And we write that down, and we're sort of writing that in our description based on what the sellers tell us. You know, we just redid this kitchen in 2019. We put custom cabinets in here. We did new lighting. We did new flooring. So they're really proud of that, and that's all part of the price, how we come up with the price with the sellers. So when I'm doing my feedback, I actually go back and I look at that description. I listen to what my buyers say. I try not to do it from what I think. You know, why is your buyer writing on the house? What were some of the stuff that they really, really liked about the house? And then I'm going back and I'm kind of refreshing and looking at that description, because if the seller is going to receive that feedback, I get feedback all the time when people are writing offers on my property, and they'll just say, you know, great, great, and then at the end, writing an offer. That doesn't make me fall in love with you right away, right? So thank you, I appreciate that you're gonna write an offer, but tell me something about the house, or, right? So I want to think that those sellers are reading my comments on the behalf of the buyer, and I want the sellers to know how much that buyer loves that house, right? So if it's a seller that's been there for 40 years, then you might say something like, you know, you can tell that this house has been truly loved for 40 years, one owner home, you know, just all those things that you know that are what your seller is thinking, right? Because we want them to what? I want them to love me right off the bat, like, hey, I don't know who that agent is, but man, that feedback was really great. Right? Do you think they say that? Sure they do. So when I talk to my sellers, they're like, wow, you know, that person might not be writing an offer, but she wrote really awesome feedback. So I'm a huge believer in that feedback, because I think the seller sees it, and then automatically when they see my offer, and we're going to work with the listing agent next, but when they see my offer, they love me already. Right? That girl from Keller Williams, what was her name? Yeah, she's the one that gave us that really good feedback.
What about price point? What do you do on that? Especially if you're gonna write an offer, do you tend to say price just right, or do you always tend to say too high? You know what I mean?
Well, I know that, I think back in the day, we were trained to say too high, but you know, in the earlier part of our conversation, we were talking about how we ran the numbers, so we should know what the number is. If it's too high, then maybe you say too high. Oftentimes sometimes I'll skip that part, because before I find out like how many offers and this and that, sometimes I'll skip that particular part, but the rest of it's nothing but love. Love your house. Oh, my buyers really blah, 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 right? So then they love me right off the bat. I really believe that, and I think that when they see my offer, they're like, oh yeah, that's that Keller agent. You know, her buyers really love this house, they really want it. All psychological, right? Are we ready to write yet? Probably not. We're gonna call the agent. How many people in here call the agent before you present an offer? Thank you and double thank you. So I get offers, you know, obviously this year, tons of offers on our properties, right? And as I always think about, you know, as the agent, getting those multiple offers, like I am busy, right? You're looking at stuff. All of a sudden, you look in your inbox again, and you're preparing all these other offers for your clients to go through, and then you get 3 other agents that have just sent you offers. I think that's so weird, right? They never called me. They never text me to find out, like, how many offers do you have? They never asked me anything about my sellers, what closing date do they want? So what kind of feeling does that give you? Yeah.
Communication's gonna suck.
Huh?
So the communication's gonna suck?
Yeah, so all the way through the process, the communication might just suck. And we know what that's like, right? It's a long process when you're working with somebody else on the other end that doesn't communicate very well. So I feel like, and I'm old school and you guys can teach me new ways, but I feel like when someone's entrusting me to sell the biggest investment of their lifetime, more times than not, unless you're Oprah, that kind of deserves a phone call. Like, I want to know, tell me about your, and it's my time to do a commercial with that agent because I need to talk to him about who I am. So I need to say, I work for Keller Williams in Wayzata. This is how long I've been an agent. This is what I do. This is what I focus on. This is why my buyers are looking in your area. And then I'm going to start to tell them about my lender. Worked with my lender for over 15 years. This is who she is. This is who he works for, whomever you're working with. How important is it that you have a great lender in this market? Like everything, right? And you guys get those offers that are, from some lender that you're like, okay, Joe's mortgage company down in Rochester. I'm like, no, I don't know that. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to call Joe and talk to him about that offer that he took the time to prepare and the offer. So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, you want to work with lenders that, people maybe recognize and that you have a strong relationship with, and you can articulate that relationship with the listing agent. Yes?
So question, when you're, giving the other agent information about yourself,
Yeah.
and I know it might be easy for you to say, I've been in the business 15 years. If you're a newer agent, you've only been in it, let's say, a couple months, do you still recommend you tell them that?
Sure. I was really, when I first came to be an agent, I worked for Coldwell Banker for a number of years before I came to Keller. I was so scared in the beginning that people were going to ask me when I went out on listing appointments, how long have you been in the business, right? That was super scary. And, oddly enough, nobody ever did. So, and then I think I had one guy, like maybe after he'd been in the business like 2 years, and he said, well, how long have you been doing this? And I said, a while. Right? Like, I got you. A while, right? You guys believe that, right? A while, you don't know. Year, 2 years, whatever. So I think it's just how you handle yourself. I have agents that are new agents that write offers. I have one right now, a RE/MAX agent. She's awesome. And she wrote an offer right up front. She said, you know what? I'm a newer agent. I've been here for a year. This is my thing, blah, 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 whatever. And I said, well, you wrote a great offer. Let's get this done.
Yeah.
And she has been amazing all the way through. Do I coach her sometimes and say things? Yep, I do. Like, nope, we can't wait for 3 days to get that done. We're going to need to get that done today. Any way that you could talk to your buyers today, that would be super helpful. So, I think it depends on the confidence that you have behind that statement, or maybe you don't want to bring it up. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, that's the thing. I can see it going both ways. You tell them up front, and maybe they're going to be, like you, willing to help you through the process a little bit and make things go smoother. But then if you're ending up in a spot where you have to negotiate a little bit, and they know this, that you're a newer agent, they can take advantage of you. I can see it going both ways.
Are you in coaching here? Okay. So, if they, if I would say, maybe what you could say is that I am a newer agent in the Wayzata office, and I'm being coached at the very highest level with other, expert agents in my office. So I've got a team behind me every step of the way. So, how often do you guys get that question? I don't know. People don't really ask me, like, how long have you been in the business, like listing agents? Because I'm thinking maybe they're looking my numbers up too. But, I mean, I wouldn't be afraid to say that, because you are being coached,
Yeah,
even if
I
it's
guess
by Kevin.
I'm not getting that question asked of me, but just the way you're explaining yourself, you call up the agent, you give them your resume.
Yeah.
Well, your resume.
So you just
could be-
skip that part of your resume,
Yeah,
maybe.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just,
You still have a resume.
yeah, I do.
Well, what if someone looks me up and I have no history?
How do you know that? I don't know that they're going to.
Okay.
You know, I don't know that they're going to.
Good.
If I'm really in a competitive situation and I know that there's like, 7 offers, I need what I call a get up on everything. So I need to look that agent up. I need to know like, oh, so you go to Alexandria or whatever. Because what I'm trying to do during the conversation with the agent, I feel like they're getting ready to accept my offer before they've even seen my offer. Because I'll tell you what happens. This is what I think, and you guys can maybe think I'm crazy. But so when I talk to that listing agent, I say, this is who I am. This is who, let me tell you about my lender. So, we have a really tight team, and this is what we do, and I've worked with her for a long time. And let me tell you about my buyer. So they walk through the door, and then immediately, this is like a movie, right? I'm like creating a movie for him. I know it sounds creepy. I know some of you do it. But, they walked in the door, all of a sudden they saw this, and they were like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. And then I'm going through the whole house. April's heard me do this before. She's laughing over here, I'm sure, like, oh, I know. So, when they go to talk to the sellers, and they're sitting down with those 7 offers, do you think that when he goes to present my offer, that he feels like he knows me? Sure he does. Because I told him everything about myself, whether he wanted to hear it or not, myself, my buyer, my lender, everything. So when he gets to my offer, he's going to yep, this agent called me. So let me tell you a little bit about her. She works over in the Wayzata office. Her buyers live in Michigan. They're down here for a new job, blah, blah. So he's repeating back what I just said to him.
You made it more personal.
Very personal. Because this is a heart business, right? That's what I think. It's a heart business.
And that is a big deal on the listing side, because like Tam said, you're thinking, we're gonna spend time together. So you
That's
really
right.
wanna work with someone you like, and not an arrogant, cause there's those arrogant agents who are just, they try to put that one up on you, like you're talking about. You don't wanna work with them. I literally have chosen because of, I don't wanna deal with that person.
You know what, and back to your point of the 15 years, I don't do that like, hey, I've been doing this 15 years. Because I really don't. I really downplay that. I say, good, bad, and the ugly. I've been here for 15 years. I say things like that because I learned just 2 years ago, I had a guy from another brokerage, and every time I talked to him, he'd say, you need to understand, I've been doing this 30 years. I thought, oh God, please don't let me be one of those people, right? And then all of a sudden I heard myself being one of those people. And if you're a newer person on the other end, if I say I've been doing this for 15 years, then I've automatically intimidated you, right? Right or wrong, I have. So I'm always trying to, that's why I think it's important, you gotta look up the agent. Who are you dealing with? I'm sorry, Della, did you have a question?
First of all, I didn't start being asked how long I've been in business until about 3 or 4 years ago, and I don't know if it's because of my hair color change or what. They'll look at me like, how long have you been doing this? Since I was 3. But you get that. But I've noticed too with agents, or particularly with your buyers, and I'm sorry if I got off track a little bit here, this made a difference on my last buyer. I like to go to open houses with them if they notice something that they have seen and online and they really could be interested in it. And I will talk to the listing agents while my buyers are looking around. And frankly, that's the difference that made us, gave us the purchase agreement.
She just told me that last weekend, we were on the phone, and that is like something that I've never done before.
Yeah.
But that is super cool. Then you really got the face-to-face, and you're building the rapport with the agent.
Yeah.
right then and there. So
You
that's an
know-
awesome,
Yeah, he
Tip.
told me later that he went to his sellers, he said, I like the agent, I met her buyers, I like her buyers, I talked to her loan officer, and I like the loan officer, and these are the people we need to work with. This is not the highest offer, but I think this is the one you should go with.
it's like magic. I love it, Della. That's such a good tip. I'm gonna use that one for sure.
Can I say something quick? So I don't think anyone has ever asked me that, but I've had people who try to like pull one over on me because I probably looked younger when I first started. It hasn't happened as much, maybe it's been getting older, I don't know. But no one's ever asked me. But I have been in situations, even in listing appointments, where there's no way I could have the experience as the other person because I'm 15 years younger. So, but I just owned it, you know. I said, I've been in the business for 2 years, but I have, you know, and I have this really great backing from Keller Williams. We have incredible training. I'm going to be here for you all the way. So I just kind of owned it because the seller specifically asked me, well, how long have you been doing real estate? And because the person I was up against, they've been doing it for like 17 years, and I was on year 2, and I won that listing. And I just owned it though, you know, because it's like you have a lot of you have a different perspective. You've got more hunger. You're not complacent, which tends to happen, right? So I just owned it. So I've never brought it up because I do the same thing Sherri does. What she's getting here is like establish rapport with the agent because your relationship with them matters, and it's why I've won in multiples plenty of times. Or if I lost, I would be the first one they called if that buyer was going to fall through.
they
before we won that
apologize,
market.
right? They apologize to you.
So it's just about if you establish good rapport and you're communicating with them and you're taking this class, which means you're 1,000 times better than like most of the people that are writing offers, they're not even going to question it. And in establishing the rapport, it won't even matter how long you've been in it. But if they call you out on it, own it and just
Yep.
tell them all the positives about it.
Yep.
Sherri, did you already explain how to look up an agent and see what they've done?
No, but I can. So if you just go out on North Star, on the MLS, you can get the agent's user ID, you know, the 50, whatever it is. And you can actually, down at the bottom of that, you can plug that in to look up an agent. Then you can go and look at solds, right? You can put in the year, just like you would like a house if you're looking up solds. But then you can pull up the information about the agent, like what do they have currently listed, what have they sold this last year, you know, all of that. But it's by their agent ID, and there's a specific box for it on the MLS.
And when they're on a team, it's not going to show up either.
Yeah, when they're on a team, no.
Yeah.
But you can see how big the team is,
Right.
right?
You can still find them though. I mean, you go to the tab at the top, it says roster.
Yeah.
So if you know their name,
Yes,
you
true.
can type in their last name and it'll bring them up, and then you can click on it, you can see, you know, their agent number,
They would call
Yeah.
their
us.
license number, I mean, and then
Okay.
do your search based on
The Home Snap app also does that. You can look them up on the Home Snap.
I gotta get better at home snap. I don't really go out there,
It
but I
allows you
heard
to
it's
just
a
type
really
in their
good.
name and how many closings they've had in the last 18 months.
Okay.
That's good.
How many listings and buyers?
Cool.
And you know, sometimes you're not gonna have time for that. Like,
Right.
I've barely gotten out of a house, and then, or I've been in the house, and then they call for highest and best by 7 o'clock, and right now it's 5:30.
Yeah.
So you're like getting to the nearest place, talking to your buyers super fast, talking to everybody really fast.
So on that piece, when things get fast,
Yeah,
oftentimes details get missed.
yep.
So what's your advice on be fast or be right in presenting an offer in multiples?
Well, for me, it's about the buyer. So I spend more time up front. I spend a lot of time up front with my buyers. So I do a buyer's consult. Everybody do that?
Yes.
Yes. So, you know, you're not just like, hey, here I am, I'm an agent. You know, I always just try to focus on them, like really listening. What is it that you're looking for? Why? Because I think it creates less work for me, honestly, selfishly, I really do. If I'm really trying to get them to narrow things down during that buyer's consult. The paperwork, the process, this is what's going to happen. This is how much money you have to have in your bank account right now, right? Got to pay for the inspection. Got to have some earnest money. You're buying a $500,000 house. This is probably what you should have in there. So I give them all those numbers during my buyer's consult. And I really just take a lot of time up front so that I feel like I'm comfortable with them and they're comfortable with me. Because do we want to work with everybody?
No.
Nope. Nope, we don't. And does everybody want to work with us? No, they don't. So at the end, and this is probably totally wrong, and Kevin can yell at me later, but at the end of my buyer's consult, I asked them, would there be any reason right now that we wouldn't plan on working together in the next 30 to 45 days to find you your property? And if there isn't, then this would be the very next step in the process. That would be signing the buyer's rep agreement and the agency, which we've already talked about, right? And this allows me to represent you completely, exclusively, right? So then we sign right there and we go on our merry way. So if there's somebody that I'm not really comfortable, if I'm not really sure about agents, then I don't really pressure people to sign that document right then and there. Because here again, I say, here's this document and this document. Please take it home with you. Read through it, let me know if you have any questions. And then let's touch base in the next 24 hours and see where you're at. So that may not be what coaches are telling you to do, probably not. But sometimes you get that feeling that people just aren't comfortable signing right then and there. I try not to take personal offense to that. I try to let them go back and breathe and read the paperwork and make sure. Then when they come back to you and say, you're our agent and we want to hire you, then, there you go. But a lot of people want to think it over. Unless there's something I'm maybe missing in that process. Is everybody to sign everyone up like immediately? It's probably what you're supposed to do.
One of the things that I wanted to hint at, and in being able to do that, all that stuff with your buyer, right? You can have a conversation. We're going out to buy a home, not look at a home. So when they see the house, if it's the one, especially in competitive market, they got to be ready to go. So part of that saves time. Then all you're asking them is when you're closing is, are you ready to go? Is this the one, right?
Yeah.
And the point on the other spot is just when we hurry and we send an offer that's incomplete or doesn't have different things, what do you do with those offers?
Okay, we're just getting ready to get we're just getting ready to get to that part. So we've had a great buyer's consult. We've gone through all the steps, and you guys let me know if you have any steps that are different, because I'd love to know. Like Della, you kidding me? It's a great idea. Go to those open houses and talk to those agents. So then you're writing the offer. What's that?
I met you at an open. I remember now. I thought I recognized you.
I did that with her one time.
With April?
Yep.
That's so funny.
Yeah. I was looking at you and I'm like, I think I do know her.
And then you wrote the offer on her house?
No,
No.
we ended up not buying yet. They
Yeah.
had not moved back, and so they're not quite ready yet.
Okay. Excuse me. Coffee went down the wrong pipe, no, water. So now we're going to write the offer. So everybody feels confident and you've got all the information, right? Buyers have read everything. Now you feel confident about going in and writing the offer, right? You've done the market. How perfect does that offer have to be when you submit it and you're in multiple offers?
Perfect.
Perfect. So what does that mean?
All the addendums are there, like adds, addendums, disclosures, the cover letter notes from the lenders, everything.
Everything.
Every box.
Every box needs to be checked. All the signatures need to be in the right place. Why? Because I'm a listing agent, and you guys just sent me your offers. So I've just gone through them, and I'm looking at all kinds of things. So if you don't have all the boxes checked, and you don't have all the work done, and that purchase agreement is halfway filled out, where am I going to put that PA?
At the bottom.
Right? Because then I know during the transaction, I'm gonna have to do my work and your work. And if you can't take the time up front to write the offer for your buyer, then you really don't deserve to win. That's how I feel. So one of the things that I do too is I always copy my lender with the purchase agreement. Does everybody have a lender here that works on the weekends? If you don't, you better get a new lender. My lenders all work on weekends, so they're prepared for those phone calls, and I try not to interrupt them all weekend long, but I do copy them on the purchase agreement when I'm sending in the summary. Does everybody write a summary for the listing agent? Yep, because I just want the listing agent to be able to look at it and go, okay, it's $495, closing on April 30th, no seller pays, right down the line. So in that, I write that, and then I copy her on that, and then immediately what she does is she reaches out to the listing agent. Right? Huge. So then right up front as a listing agent, what kind of feeling does that give you?
Security.
Like these people are on their game, right? They're gonna turn and burn this deal and be right on top of it. So I always copy her. She's already done the numbers. They've already, worked the magic. So she knows what the numbers are. She knows, again, the client. And sometimes I'll text her, and so I always say, my lender will call you back right away unless she's fishing, then she'll call you when she's off the lake, which is a true story. But then I'll text her and say, hey, this agent writing an offer for so-and-so, and this agent's gonna need a phone call. And how do I know that that agent's gonna need a phone call instead of an email? Because I already had the conversation with the agent, right? So for me, if you pick up the phone and call me, in this day and age, I am like super impressed by that, right? So I could tell on the phone that he was really impressed, and she can also do an email if she wants to, but I prefer, because of who this agent is, and I've done my homework so I know that, and maybe he's already complained, like, yeah, I just got 3 offers, and nobody even called me. I hear it all the time. Like, yep, this guy just sent me an email out of the blue. I don't know anything about it. It was half written, and I'm like, yeah, I know. But, I'm looking forward to working with you. And, so sometimes my lender will pick up the phone and call them, and then she's saying the same thing about me that I just told him, right? I've worked with Sherri for X. I know these buyers, they've provided all the documents. This is what they do. We don't write pre-approval letters unless they're really pre-approved. Even at the higher number in which their offer was written, those numbers have already been presented to the buyer, fully aware, right? So he's hearing the same thing over and over again. So my goal is for when he gets to the table with the seller, that he's saying all the things that he just heard from everybody. So there's a comfort level. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's a hard business, right? And do you care about the sellers and how and what they're getting and how it's gonna work for them? Of course, yeah. And the listing agent wants to know that. Like, I really do care that your people have lived in their house for 40 years. Like, honestly, I do. And I know how hard that is. That's a really difficult move for people to make, right? Because we've all helped people do that. Like, I get it. It's, So if they need a little extra time on the closing, it's fine with me. My buyers will be fine with that. Whatever they need, whatever's going to make them feel comfortable. We understand. It might take them a little longer to get out of there. So I'm setting that up with them, and he knows that I've done my research on the property, and that I'm willing to accommodate his sellers as much as I possibly can. Yep. Make sense?
I have a question.
Yes.
Before approaching that agent, do you have a conversation with your clients? Does that make sense? So in other words, like, let's say they're kind of on the fence about the property.
Who's on the fence now?
The client, maybe it's because of price. you
Okay.
go and have that conversation with that agent, or do you avoid talking about price? So in other words, my clients found a home, they like it, they're interested in the area, they like the whole environment, however, it's overpriced, and they're unsure if they should even put an offer in.
Who said it was overpriced?
The
Buyers.
clients-
Buyers?
The buyers, excuse me. So the buyers
Well,
think it's overpriced. or
who's
out
the
of their
agent?
budget.
Who's the agent? You're the agent?
I'm representing buyers.
Okay. Well, whose job is to tell the buyers the price?
I would assume it would.
So you did the market analysis for
Yeah.
them,
Yep,
and you said A, B, and C house sold for
Yeah.
$350.
yep,
So we know that in this environment, right, that the baseline is $350.
right.
And these people have, so you're going through, they have a deck, they have this, they have that, they have this, it's gonna go in multiples. And you said they like the house, but maybe they don't love the house.
Right.
So then I kind of take the house back away from them. Because if you don't love the house, I hear you say you like the house and that you like the area and that everything kind of looks good. To me, then they're giving you all the signals that they're not ready to write, and that's not their house,
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
And if the lender's already done the math, and you know that it's a $350 price, but it's probably gonna go at $375 because of all the offers. And you saw a comp out there where we know that internally they have a lot of great things, and that's what you're gonna have to do to get this house, and they really, really want it.
Mhm.
Then you write the offer. But if your buyer's unsure, I mean, you have to help them along with that, and they have to be okay with where they're at
Mhm.
on the house. But I'm not calling the listing agent and
Right.
creating that mess with them.
Right.
Because all of a sudden I'm calling you and I'm saying, hey, Joe, calling you about your property over on Olive Street. Looks like it's kind of overpriced. So immediately, right off the bat,
Yeah.
I don't really care for you that much.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? So no, I don't. If you really believe that the house is overpriced and you have the comps and your buyers want to write an offer, then I say you write the offer, talk to your buyers, and you guys go in at the price that you feel is the right price,
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
Because there are houses that are overpriced out there and you have to do your homework. But if you call the agent, I feel like, I don't get any feedback from you guys, but if you call the agent right off the bat and say, hey, great listing, looks like it's really overpriced, I'm gonna be like, yeah.
Yeah,
What was
and
your
that's like
name?
some of the stuff-
Watch for your offer.
Because I hear you saying like you're building rapport and everything else.
But
and
that's
you're
not
giving-
building rapport.
No.
Here's another way to say it maybe.
But the-
So maybe you
yeah.
call me and you say, Sherri, hey, my buyers went through that house. They love it, love it, love it. Love it, right? Not like it. They love it. They love it. They're talking to their lender right now. And they're putting together a pre-approval or whatever it is that you say. Then you say, I got a question though. Can you help me out here with some of the comps? Because, when I went through the neighborhood, this is what I found. And I know that you guys have that new deck and you've got that, you've got this, but, I'm a little concerned about the appraisal.
Mhm.
So that would be a different way to maybe approach it. Because then you're asking him for his expertise and advice.
Okay.
Instead of just saying, you know what, you screwed up and you listed this house too high.
Yeah, and that's.
Because
sort
then
of
I
what
would
I'm
watch for
touching
your
on.
name and that offer to come through, and then I'd probably put you over here.
Right.
I'm just kidding. If it was the
Kinda.
right offer, kind of.
So, in conversation, it's okay to ask for their expertise in the sense of like, how do you pull your comps or,
Not
like,
how.
Well,
Understand.
I'm seeking to understand like,
Yeah.
how do you get the,
Well, you should have the comps. So in your hand, when you call, you should be that confident agent that has the comps. And you know that in the neighborhood, in the last 2 months, that there have been 4 houses that have sold between $350 and $385. And you've
Right.
reviewed all those houses, and you believe that the best comp for his house is the one that's $375. So for me, I wouldn't question the agent, I would write my offer, with the buyer's permission, I would write my offer at $375. And let them know that, they love the house. So if there's anything else you guys can do relative to the offer, please don't hesitate to call me. Meaning, I'm leaving that door cracked a little bit, so please call me back. And then, if they want you to, so let's say they come back at 380, you're still under 385, right? So you're still in that zone. So at $5,000, your buyers will probably do that, because that's really nothing on their payment. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Sherri,
Yeah.
are you gonna cover like putting in, like if it doesn't appraise?
No,
Oh, okay,
I'm not.
okay.
Sorry, they didn't ask me to do that.
Okay,
That's a whole nother subject, right?
gotcha, okay.
Sherri,
Okay.
do you ever call the agent, and I know we kind of just covered contact with them, but in the first place to find out if there are other offers to
Sure.
start?
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
So, and here again, that drives me crazy too, when people, the agents, send those offers and they don't even know. Like I could have like 7 offers. Don't you want to talk to me and find out like what the deal is? I mean, I
And
just
then they
feel like
submit
it's
it below.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
asking.
Like
I
way
know.
low, and you're like.
yeah, or they want 3% in closing costs.
Yes.
Like, okay, buddy, thanks for
Yeah,
playing.
yeah, you're multiple.
Yeah, you're in multiple. So, all right. So let's talk about those letters to the sellers. We talked about that a little bit. Sending those letters to the sellers, got to have some love in there, right? So we're loving on their house. They're telling you. Now, some people believe in them, some people don't. I don't always like to read them when I get them on my listings. Sometimes I find myself doing it, but I know that I ask my sellers. We have a couple letters here from a couple of folks that have written the offer. Would you like to read it? What do they say every time?
Yeah.
Sure, love to read it. You bet. Why?
Connection, I don't know.
They want to know. They want to know who they are. They want to know why they want their house. Why do you want everybody wants my house today. Right? That's how they feel when you're like, I'm bringing 5 offers. Well, then somebody's written an offer. I've had this happen so many times this summer, and I feel like in some ways it's kind of shameless, but I'm representing my buyers and I have to do what I got to do. So I already know that they're dog lovers, right? Because I saw them on Facebook with all these dogs. Yep. Do your buyers have a dog? Sure they do. Maybe. So the picture, the dog, the family, whatever you have, you gotta pull out all the stops, right? So I do send my buyers examples of letters that some of my previous buyers have gotten offers accepted with the permission of those buyers, right? Previous buyers. So just structural, like, this is me, this is my family, I went to college, we're married, we want to have a family in your house, we want to, raise our dogs and that, bring our dogs back to that fenced yard, whatever it is, we're trying to appeal to the seller. So when the seller sees somebody that's like them, because we all know that we like people who are like us, right? Sure, they got dogs, we love them. Happens all the time. Della and I had I had a property over in Maple Grove. Della helped me out with an open, and my seller was all about her dog who had just passed away in December. Now when I sat down with her, there was a dog that came to the open. Were you there, Della?
Yep.
So I said, gosh, don't leave him in the car, bring him in the back. It's fenced back there, just let him run around. I got him some water. And so when my seller heard that, and these people had a dog that was like the same or similar breed that she had, guess whose offer she wanted to accept? Yeah, but they didn't write the best offer. So I had to say, I love you, known you a long time, but I'm going to pull out the realtor stops here now. And now we're not friends. I'm going to be your realtor here for the next few minutes. I know you love these people and they have a great dog, and that's super awesome, but it's not a great offer, right? So that let's, open your mind, let's listen to the other offers. But that's how people get, right? So those letters can be super powerful, and you got to make sure they're writing them from from the heart. And hopefully they do love the house, not like the house. They love the house and they're gonna, that stuff just gonna flow out. Love you. Thank you for coming, honey. This is April James, and she's from our other office in Uptown. She's awesome. You wanna do a transaction?
And I've known
with her.
this young lady for 27 years.
I know, that's so sad. It makes me feel so old. Okay, the summary letter we talked about, the cover letter, the PA paperwork, no mistakes. Copy your lender's response to the agent, submit, and get confirmation. Why do you want to get that confirmation?
Be sure that they received it.
Yeah, because, you know, I send offers to people and they don't even send you a confirmation back. So did they really get it? That makes me so nervous. I'm on the phone like, did you get my offer? Texting, did you get my offer? Can't win if you don't haven't, you know, if they haven't seen your offer. And then follow up with your buyer. So in the follow-up with the buyer at the end, you know, after all this is done, remember they're riding this roller coaster. They've sent that listing to their mom, their dad, their cousins, whoever, like, hey, we're writing an offer on this house, blah, blah, blah. So in the end, I think the best way to, for me, to work with them is, you know, I'm a God girl, so I just say, we've done our best. We've written the best possible offer that we could possibly write. So maybe they can't go any higher than 400. And that's just how it is. Everybody has a budget, right? So we wrote a great offer. We've did that buyer letter. We've done all the things well. So we've submitted a really great offer. Congratulations. Thank you for your support and help. And you know what? Now we're just going to have to turn it over. And you know, and let it be where it is. Sometimes they end up choosing another offer, then they come back to us. You know, we've seen it a million different ways. But then we, you know, let them know that probably they're going to present at 7. That doesn't mean you're going to get a phone call at 7. That means they're presenting all the offers at 7. We should know something hopefully by the end of the night or first thing in the morning, unless you've written an expiration on your purchase agreement, right?
How do you feel about those in multiple offer situations on the buy side?
I love them.
What
I
do you
always,
love?
I do not.
Oh.
Here again, depending on who it is, what the circumstances are, but I do put a lot of expirations on my purchase agreements just because I don't, and you can kind of tell that when you're talking to the listing agent, like, he's busy, he's in Duluth. That's fine, but you know that he's not super motivated maybe to get these offers presented. And I've written a really great offer and I want them to take notice. So I'm just gonna say, you know, thank you, I appreciate it, enjoy your time, but I gotta let you know that my folks have asked me to put on a 24-hour expiration on this because they really are, they really want this house, but if they don't get it, they need to find a home, and quickly. So I don't know.
Where do you put that?
Other.
On
I put it under other. Where do you put it, Tam?
And it'll,
Other?
Yeah, anywhere there's another section.
Anywhere, yeah.
and it'll expire 11/59 at.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I put it in my summary too so that they
Yes.
know. Because that way they take note and I
Yes.
highlight it like in
Yeah.
a different marker color.
The
Okay.
only caution I'll say on those is if your offer truly expires and they have now called for a final and best,
It's not on the table.
You wouldn't do it
right?
then, you do it
yeah,
after.
it's not, your offer's expired already. So you want to make sure that you're not putting unrealistic, causing stress on the other side that's not realistic.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I do it during the highest and best phase. Never before, usually before that I don't. So, sorry, we're like jumping all around here. All right, so that's where we were. You're gonna call your buyers and congratulate them. Or, remember, we're in the heart business. You're gonna help put them back together, right? Because they're not gonna get, you're not gonna win every time. Just the law of averages. That's just realistic. But, you know, you have to just let, I lost one deal this year, and my buyers literally had to take a 2-week break. They were so distraught over this house that was set on a swamp that, you know, I pointed out when we were in there. But it really wasn't about the house, it was about the decorations.
Wow.
And
Which go with the
so in the
cellar.
end, we kind of talked about that as we sort of unpacked it all. And then when they were ready to go back out, and then before we could go and look at another property and be really clear about looking at another property, I needed to make sure that they had let go of that property too. So how did you feel how are you guys still feeling about losing that property? Was it really the house? Was it the location? And then I looked at her and I said, or was it the decorations? And then she goes, it really was decorated nice. I said, all I could do was hear those mosquitoes. Oh, those mosquitoes. Then they got a bigger, better house, because I always say this or something better. And they got a bigger, better house, and now they understand looking back why they didn't get that house. And we wrote $35,000 over, and they didn't get that house.
Wow. Wow.
I feel like, so I wrote an offer this weekend, and I feel like maybe I unnecessarily put emphasis on how fast it needs to be in and submitted. Is that, or would you say it needs to go quickly?
To be submitted to the listing agent?
Yeah, to submit an offer.
Did they have a deadline?
No,
Oh,
I
well,
was just concerned. It was my first one. I wanted to make sure I got it.
well, no, I
Accepted.
think if you see it and your buyers know that's the right house, you just write it and get it in,
Okay.
But I do always call the agent, and say, super exciting. My buyers are, they're thinking of seriously writing an offer on your property. So I'm looking forward to working with you, right? Like, we're already working together. And, but I just wanted to know, when, if we get an offer in by tonight, when would you be presenting to your sellers? Because I need to be able to tell my buyers that, right?
Right.
Or are those agents, because there are some agents that they like to collect offers for some reason. They want to have like 25. Why? I don't know. Because there's only one that's really good anyway, right? Or a couple. So, yeah, no, I would have written it and sent it in right away
Okay.
too. Just find out, if there's a deadline, if they have multiples, or,
Again, maybe
Yeah.
I caused some unnecessary stress on
The
the
buyers.
urgency of getting something written in, but, okay.
well, it's better to do it than not do it.
Okay.
Because, they could have gotten another offer, or did you get it accepted?
I did.
Yeah. That's the way. Anybody else? Any questions?
Do you ever kind of hold back a little bit so that you're not the first one to put an offer in?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me more about that.
Well, if you know it's gonna be kind of a hot property and you've spoken to the listing agent, and I'll say things like, what kind of activity are you getting on the house? I'm sure, you guys are like super busy over there. You probably get 1 million offers. And then he'll say, not really. I mean, people are, not really. Like, we had like 5 showings this week. And I'm like, wow, then I'll relate something back, like, yeah, I just listed something on Wednesday and I've had like 1 showing, the market is shifting, or do you feel the shift coming? So we're just chatting, right, about real estate or whatever. And then I'll say, that I'm trying to find out what the motivation of the seller is, and then we talk a little bit about that. Then I'm like, well, let me know if you get any other offers, because, I think that my buyers are seriously going to circle back to this house, and I think this might be the one. And then he's all excited, like, oh my gosh, we might be getting an offer. And then I wait, and then I wait, and then I write it, and then I wait, and then I call him, and I say, hey, how's it going? Talked to my buyers again this morning. Get any offers? But he's like, yeah, no, we haven't got any other offers yet. And I'm like, I'm super excited. I'm gonna send you a really great offer. Let's get this done. So then because he's been nervous all night, like, why didn't that lady write? She said she was gonna write, she didn't write. So then, I don't know, it's, real estate's kind of a game, right?
Do you bring the offer down?
Not necessarily, I mean, if the value's there, not necessarily, but, you know, I want him to present and I want my offer accepted, so,
I have a question.
yeah.
What if the buyer is watching the property, you know, they say a house in the neighborhood sold in 4 or 5 days, but this house is, you know, pushing 30, 40 days. They've been watching, but haven't put an offer in or anything like that.
Have they been in the house?
Yeah. Maybe-
You've been in the house with
Maybe a couple
them?
times, yeah.
Smell bad?
I don't know.
Why isn't it selling?
I don't know.
You should know.
Okay.
You should know. So, I've had that happen like so many times, like, you know, especially on listings too, you know, they'll say, well, the house down the street sold in 3 days. I have one of
Right.
those right now. And it sold for 3 days, and it's like, well, first of all, the market's turned a little bit, right? So we talk about that, just keeping it real. And their house was in like, on a scale of 1 to 10, their house was maybe 15.
Okay.
And our house is maybe a 9. So we gotta figure out how to get that listing from a 9 to a 15, right? Our house just doesn't show like their house. We don't have the updates that they have. So, you know, hot houses are always gonna sell, right? Sell first, sell for good prices because people want them. Nothing to do, it's all updated. So there's always a reason why that house isn't selling. And as an agent, then I feel like it's my responsibility, I should be able to tell them why. I walked in there, it smelled like 80 dogs lived there. Don't get yelled at like me on video when you walk in and it's like, oh my God, there's like 80 cats in here. Because you're on video. And the
Wait,
seller
what?
calls you and I'm like, holy buckets, this smells like cat in here. So much cat poop in here. Then they hear you on the video.
Wait, what?
And they call you up. I can't believe you said that about my house. I'm like, what did I say in there? They said, you know, you just said, oh my gosh, smells like a lot of cat poop in here. I go, there was a lot of cat poop.
That's real.
And I was scared. I was scared.
Sherri,
That's what I said.
have you gotten really caution your buyers, just don't talk when you go inside?
I always say, you know, when we first start out, I always say, just assume you're on camera. I'm always the one that gets in trouble because I chat. I will say things. I get frightened by the cat poop, or, you know, when you walk around the corner and a big mean dog comes out, or a coon cat that nobody told you was in the house. You hear me scream. It's just an animal that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah, okay,
So.
I was wondering, because I started doing that with my
Yeah, I
buyers.
always do.
And it's-
Remember, you're on camera before we walk in, but then I forget halfway through the house, and then I say,
Isn't it?
ah, there's a cat. They have to tell you.
Oh, that's cool.
I have gotten good calls too. They'll call and say, oh my gosh, it was so sweet. Like this dog was downstairs, big dog, super hot day, and it was still like, it was super humid, whatever. So anyway, I'm like, I'm gonna give that dog some water. He was panting, like, yeah. So I'm like, shh. Pour the water in there. So I have a call too, and then the seller called and said, oh my God, you're so sweet. And I couldn't get home. We had two more showings. And thanks for giving my dog some water. I'm like, shoot. Would have folded your laundry too if you asked me. So anyway.
All right, how many enjoyed the class with Sherri today? Let's give it a hand.